Merhaba değerli katılımcılar ve izleyiciler, panelistler. Bugün aslında günümüzün çok önemli bir konusu olan
Hello, dear participants and the panelists. Today we are going to share our opinions on the uh, sustainable cities. The governance is the foundation of everything. A good governance approach is actually helping us with the right decision-making processes, the right way of planning, and it's the basis of the right way of execution. Today we have 6 valuable participants. First of all, I would like to introduce our guests. First of all, from Marmara Union of Municipalities, Özgür Sivrikaya is a participant in our panel, and they are the ambassador of Sustainable Development Goals of Marmara Union of Municipalities. The second is Dr. İnan İzci from Arguden Governance Academy. He is a member of the academic board. The third participant is Madam Betül Çelikkaleli. She is the Deputy Secretary General of Türk Confed. And the other participant is Ms. Cansu Kütlü, and she's an expert in TÜSİAD. Dr. Ayşe Köse Badur is from Istanbul Policy Center, Urbanization and Local Governance Coordinator. And we also have Madam Dr. Gülçin Salıngan from UNDP, United Nations Development Program. She's joining us. And she is Istanbul Private Sector and Development Center Deputy Director. Today's subject is actually, when you see the guests, with a 360 degrees perspective, we would like to assess today's topic, because here we have an international structure, we have a think tank, we have a civil society organization, we have three civil society organizations. One of them is representing the local, and then the second participant is representing a greater business world, and we have a civil society organization which represents the municipalities. From different perspectives in the governance of sustainable development in cities, all the stakeholders which have important role have been gathered together to share their opinions. I would like to start the meeting with Madame Özge. My question to you is this. Actually, we are going to evaluate the same subject from different perspectives. In order to realize the sustainable development vision, what kind of role do you offer for the municipalities, and what are your opinions? First of all, thank you very much, and hello everybody. When I think about this subject, we can say that basically the municipalities have direct and indirect roles in this subject. What are the direct roles? Direct roles are actually the municipalities are the public institutions, which is very close, which is the closest to the public, and they have responsibility and obligation to make an intervention in the problem areas. Their social assistance or infrastructure works are somehow feeding the sustainable development goals. These are the direct roles of municipalities. In every country, these sub-goals are overtaken by municipalities at different ratios, and their responsibilities are different in each country, but this is their role. Secondly, we can talk about the indirect roles of the municipalities. The first part is the awareness raising, the issue of raising awareness. And what is that? We know that sustainable development goals, differently from the Millennium Development Goals, requires the participation of several stakeholders, and both in individuals and in the institutions. A certain change of behavior is necessary in order to reach those goals. For example, problematic production and consumption is important. And we need for this, in order to reach these targets, we need individual and institutional change of behavior. So the municipalities should recognize the individuals so that they can raise awareness among them. Another indirect way is that the municipalities ensuring coordination between individuals and institutions. We know that those goals are very complicated and very much interrelated. For this reason, there is a need for consistency in the goals. For this reason, the institutions should involve the public into this process. And for this reason, there is a need for institution for the coordination. And the municipalities can be very effective. So briefly, that is what I wanted to say. Thank you very much. And you are right. The municipalities have a political structure. They are elected. Those are semi-public institutions managed by the elected people. And in terms of people, it seems more difficult to have access to the central politics. However, having access to the local politics is very quick and important for the municipalities. And in that regard, you are very right. The role of the municipalities is very important, and it's very important for the expansion of the local democracy. In Turkey, there are certain legislative issues. There, the authorities of local governments change from country to country. Unfortunately, it's not very easy in Turkey for the municipalities to take steps in certain areas, and it's necessary to manage the subject of the resources. The infrastructure problem is a very serious problem everywhere. In Germany, in Istanbul, in New York, in London, excessive rainfall caused flooding of the subways and other places. These show that the infrastructure is not sufficient, and we need to re-establish a system for the new order, and this requires a significant amount of money. Now, I would like to return to Mr. Inan. You are actually a civil society organization. You are a non-profit organization. You are developing policies in this sense. The civil society organizations, how can civil society organizations contribute to the sustainable development goals? Thank you very much, Mr. Erkin. We deem ourselves both as a think tank and as a civil society organization, and our impact is very important. Producing information and knowledge and expanding knowledge and taking an action based on knowledge is our structure. So we are a hybrid between as an NGO and think tank. From our perspective, it's important to see this. Civil sector and public sector, this distinction belongs to the 19th century. We are trying to understand and manage the world with the mindset of the past. Actually, sustainable development goals and the vision of that is telling us something else. What does it tell? They say Sustainable Development Goals 16 and 17 say that do not look that way. Develop in corporations, because the goals cannot be attained only by public or not only by the civil sector. So this is important. Secondly, civil society organizations do advocacy activities. They raise awareness. They conduct monitoring, assessment, and lobbying so that citizens take direct action with civic initiatives. In the waste production process, a neighborhood can collect and recycle their own waste. And this is actually about the nature of the civil society organizations in the sense of the sustainable city vision. The most important point is that they balance and they monitor the public and private sector, because the resources are mostly in the hands of the public and private sector. production of the knowledge in the neighborhood scale. This could be reflecting the problems experienced by problems. For example, it could be lightening of a street because of gender issues, or it could be the earthquake risk. And in the macro scale, against the wildfires in Turkey, civil solidarity can be the subject of the policies or practices. Let me wrap up quickly. What should be done by the civil society? Civil society is definitely the main stakeholder. By producing knowledge, by raising awareness, by making advocacy, they can do this work in the fastest, in the most fair way, in the most comprehensive way. Because inside the sustainable city vision, there are so many ecologic and social dimensions and social communication dimension. And in my opinion, the most important role of civil society is to raise awareness of the society as independent as possible, to make collaborations with other sectors and then monitoring them. And secondly, with direct initiatives at the level of neighborhood or district or province, they need to contribute. Let me give an example from Istanbul. The civil society organizations in Istanbul, side by side, establishing a platform of sustainability of Istanbul, and in this sense they come together with public sectors and private sectors, and they can canalize their efforts to a common goal. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Inan. Here you talked about a very important subject. Civil society organizations raise awareness among their communities. Secondly, they can fulfill a duty of monitoring because the resources used by public is coming from the tax money of the people. Naturally, the people who give the resource should be monitoring, and this is important for ensuring the right expenditure of the resources. And thirdly, and which is very important, in particular as voluntary services, getting involved in services and some other works on a voluntary basis is strengthening the municipalities, and so that it's very important that some goals can be achievable. Sustainable development requires a development movement of the all components of the society and community for the targets. Now I would like to turn to Ms. Betül. We talked about municipalities aspect and a civil society expert. You are coming from Türk Confed and you have more than 40,000 members. You are the biggest civil society organization in your area. From such a perspective, local business world, what could be the contribution of local business world? How can they cooperate with the municipalities? What are your opinions? Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Erkin. And I would like to thank to Marmara Union of Municipalities, Arguden Academy for their invitation and for this very nice organization. As you have said, there is a variety of civil society organizations, and the business world has their own organizations. We are an umbrella organization as Turkish Initiatives and Business People organization. We have business people and the federations. Türk Confed puts the regional and local development to the center as a civil society organization. We can summarize it roughly under two titles. The most important one, and which distinguishes Türk Confed from other organizations, is the organizational structure. We have adopted the regional and local development. The Türk Confed was established in 2014, and 5 regional federations were united, and various sector associations were gathered. In roughly, we had 60 associations. But the day it was established, the goal was to support the regional development agencies, like to be a stakeholder, to share the decision-making mechanisms along with the regional development agencies. For this reason, in every we aim to establish federations, and those 5 federations grew to be 26. It wasn't an easy process. It took a long time, but Türkkonfet achieved this goal. In this sense, we have 26 regional federations, and in parallel to them, 26 development agencies. At the moment, we have 4 sector federations, and for this reason, we have initiated our store with 30 federations and 60 associations. Now we are coming close to 280 units. Considering the local development, this increase in the number of federations and this growth in the associations is important, and we can see that this organization has been very much internalized by the business world. Our second goal is taking the mission of local development, and this is also written in the bylaw of the Türkkonfet. The local development, contributing to development of local and regional policies is a mission written in our bylaw. And in this scope, the regional development and the local development has been put to the center. When we look at the localities and when we investigate this issue at a local level, when we deem it with regards to the concept, we can unite the business people. These kind of structures and associations are going up in Anatolia and in metropolitan cities and in small cities. These might be economic-based or right-based organizations. There is a distinctive characteristic here, being voluntary and being independent. And this gives you the freedom of getting out of a certain hierarchy. And along with this freedom, the know-how is accumulated, in particular owning the local knowledge. Being an effective actor in the representation of local interests is on the rise. In this sense, what Mr. Inan said, if we look at those issues said by Mr. Inan, from an economic perspective, this know-how is created by our civil society organizations. And making these demands real is a duty for us to increase the institutional capacity of our associations, and we are trying to fulfill this mission. So Türkkonfet roughly makes advocacy activities. Your last minute. And we are trying to increase the capacities of our members, and we are also producing opinions. We are aware of these missions, and we are trying to contribute to the local development from center, from federation, and via our associations. Maybe in the second part, I would like to give special examples of those kind of activities. Thank you. I thank you. And indeed, you are very right. Today, when we look at the world, the local development subject is becoming more and more important. In particular, in the last 20 years, the competitiveness of the local has come to the forefront. In some situations, the decisions of investment have been formed according to the needs of the localities. We made a common work with Türkkonfet. The main point is that the local stakeholders should come together and make a correct analysis of the needs. And in this way, new opportunities can be created according to the special needs of each and every region, so that they will work together with the central government. As we have seen from different country examples, this ensures a rapid development at the regional level. This does not only mean that the increase of the gross domestic product, the equal sharing of the income, increasing the living quality, like quality of life, and development and improvement of the artistic activities, for example, and that which is contributing to the improvement of the cultural structure in that region. In that sense, the local has a significant impact. Now I would like to turn to Ms. Janso. We have discussed the local area, localities. Now, TUSIAD is representing the central or larger business world. From that sense, in terms of the sustainable development governance in the cities, what could be the contribution of the large business organizations? What are your opinions about this? Of course, I will be very happy. First of all, I would like to thank to the Marmara Union of Municipalities for the invitation of the panel. And I would like to thank Argiden Academy. And I'm very happy to be together with these valuable participants. If I turn to your question, today, as a result of the burning effects of the climate change and the pandemics, epidemics, the problems in the cities become very problem. Migration, poverty, inequality, housing, waste, resource and waste management issues increase the need for national and international collaboration. In this sense, it's critically important that the business world becomes a part of the solution. In this sense, taking initiatives in producing knowledge sharing, best practices, developing policy suggestions and advocacy works should be supported. And at the same time, the business world organizations can create dialogue platforms which cover all the stakeholders, and they can play a critical role in the design of the plannings. When I'm talking about the stakeholders, generally I mean private sector, public sector, and academy. However, at this point, city planners and architects have a role to play in this platform. We need to draw attention to this point. As for TUSIAD, because of its base law, the gender equality, sustainable environment balance are the main points in our bylaw, and in order to increase the international interaction and for accelerating the local and regional development, it works. All these developments can be set within the sustainable city vision. Today, in the global system, development policies are made on the basis of the green transformation. Undoubtedly, as a nature, sustainability, we need to add the fair transformation to this. In this process, at the local level, we need smart, green, and comprehensive, inclusive cities. In this sense, in the cities, internalizing the principle of cycles, the economic plans, clean energy, smart and green building systems based on data analytics, technology, innovation, and social policies are the areas which need improvement. In this sense, the transforming power of the private sector in order to change the patterns of production and consumption, to provide and develop infrastructure systems serving to the green transformation and ensuring the gender equality in the supply chain are the main subjects that I wanted to talk about in my speech. Thank you very much. You are very right. The private sector, the innovation, new technologies, the private sector should be pioneering in these areas so that the social development and environmental harm should be kept under control, and it should also create a value for the stakeholders and the workers so that it contributes to the social development. Now I would like to turn to Madame Ayşe. The think tanks structures are pioneers in this area. By assessing the experience from there, they are creating opinions in order to ensure development, and they are opening up new horizons. And when you look at that, from that perspective, for sustainable cities, governance perspective, what could be the contribution of think tanks? Would you like to give some information on this? Thank you very much. I would like to thank to Marmara Union of Municipalities for MARUF21, and I would like to thank Argudan Academy for this important panel. Your question is very important. Before me, you said the competitiveness of the local has gone up. As Istanbul Policy Center, which is an organization of Sabancı University, at the local level, in particular in Anatolian cities, we have been conducting a lot of investigations and research for the last 5 years. So I am going to respond to your question from the perspective of medium-scale cities rather than Istanbul or Ankara. And with the pandemic, the medium-sized cities have become more important because for sustainable life, people have moved to smaller cities. In this kind of cities, what could be the contribution of the think tanks to the sustainable city vision? First of all, there is a direct relation between think tanks and sustainable city vision. United Nations Sustainable Development Goals talk about peace, justice, strong institutions, gender equality, qualified education, a decent business life, working life. And the think tanks are also working on these subjects, and the think tanks approach the cities to those concepts. And they play a very important role in increasing the quality of life. What could they do? At first, the opinion think tanks can increase the local awareness, in particular in medium-scale cities. This is very important. In Anatolian cities or in all small cities all over the world, there are fundings. There we have the fundings of the business world. We know that municipalities have limited budgets. But in local level, there are funds sometimes spent on philanthropy activities. It's very important for the think tanks to be up and strong in these cities, and this can bring the issue of creating a funding for sustainable goals. Culture, art, science, technology, startups, all of them are in a city together with the think tanks. And in the Uludağ University, which was established during 70s, and it's actually a young university, but it's also a deep-rooted university. Selçuk University is in Konya, and we have other universities in our cities. We have plenty of deep-rooted universities, and people in those universities, young people in those universities working in think tanks, can create an important revival and vividness in the cities. And I think I have finished my time. I think we can continue. Yes, and I was already wrapping up. So I just would like to wrap up now. In particular, in medium-scale cities, the activities of think tanks are very important and very positive. From Istanbul to local level, and local think tanks will have a very positive impact on the formation of sustainable development policies, and they will be beyond politics. They will create awareness, and they will have very close relationships with the academicians and the students in those cities. Therefore, I believe this kind of think tanks will have a very positive impact on the formulation of the sustainable city policies in the cities and increasing the living quality. Thank you very much, and I would like to support what you have said. Formulating policies is the most important step for future. The activities can be performed after the formulation of the policies, And think tanks will contribute to this process by contributing to the free thinking process. Now I would like to turn to Madame Gülçin. UNDP is carrying out activities in many parts of the world, and in our country they have carried out very important activities or supported some of them made by UN in the scope of UN activities. Some of them were performed in the concept of the European Union activities. So, in that respect, as UNDP, how can you contribute to the sustainable cities vision? Thank you very much, Erkin Bey. First of all, I would like to thank Marmara Union of Municipalities for this organization, and I would like to thank Arguden Academy for organizing this session. In response to your question, as you know, in Turkey, we are carrying out activities at 3 levels. We have UNDP Turkey office only doing projects for Turkey. First, let me talk about the headquarters. UNDP has 5 global thematic policy centers. One of them is Istanbul Private Sector and Development Center, is active since 2011, and that is working and actively for the role of private sector in the Sustainable Development Goals. UNDP coordinates these kind of works, and for the country offices, it is significantly supporting the countries. In terms of our thematic, we have South-South collaboration, and under that scope, in comprehensive inclusive urbanization, we are signing different research and programs. The world mostly is shifting to the urban life from rural life in a unique way. As a result of the urbanization process, the difficulties of the sustainable development have been concentrated in the cities. The demand for city services are going up, and local governments in particular during the COVID-19 pandemic had a hard time in responding to those needs. The 90% of the policies, pandemic cases, COVID-19 cases are in cities. The health, housing, transportation, access to open public areas is very important, and the COVID-19 has demonstrated the importance of these services. As United Nations Development Program for development, we are preparing a global roadmap for development. And you know, we are here for sustainable development goals, global development goals, and that is our reason of existence. And the cities have become a critical entry point for sustainable development goals. As you know, in order to reach those goals, the investment that is necessary is between $4 and $6 trillion at a global level. Now, when we delete the contribution of the state investments, there is a still financing gap of a very high amount. And COVID-19 pandemic did not do any good for this work. With the COVID-19 pandemic, this gap is expected to go up $1.7 trillion. At this point, in the developing countries, on average, 90% of employment and 80% of the cash flow is managed by the private sector, and they are a critical player in order to reach those goals. And as our center, this is our reason of being establishment, and this is to share the active role of private sector and to canalize it for development.
için bakacak olursak kalkınma amaçları aynı zamanda
Of course, the development goals include nutrition, health, waste management, and also looking at the fields that impact city infrastructures on a global scale and opening the way for a 12 trillion market, which is new. And here we should introduce the private sector with well-designed investments and actually turning the urbanization issue an opportunity beyond actually a problem. As UNDP Policy Center, we want to attract the private sector to this opportunity, which is, of course, companies, as the previous speakers referred to, financial, environment, and capacity-related business models will actually be the areas where these companies are engaged in. For making these cities more sustainable, we need actually a city governance model, which is more participatory and which has multiple participation, and ensure that these cities are human focused and actually environment friendly, so that they can play the critical role in terms of urbanization. As the UNDP, as Global Thematic Policy Center, we want to enhance the role of the private industry and ensure that we can actually facilitate the role between the players. Can you wrap up, please? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You are definitely right. These sustainable development goals mean a serious opportunity for the private sector, and those who contribute to problem resolution will make actually a benefit, and UNDP presents a serious opportunity so that they can take action after appreciating its importance. My apologies. Now I would like to turn to Ms. Özge. When looked at from this framework, do you observe an example from Turkey or our region in terms of collaborations, acting together, for example, from the perspective of the unions of municipalities? Of course, in the simplest term, I can say I would like to emphasize this. Municipalities and the associations of municipalities actually should be addressed differently, as their authorities and responsibilities differ alongside the types of partnerships they can start. As the unions of municipalities, I can say this. What are our roles? As stated earlier, we are not on the field, and we do not make a huge contribution to those UN goals, but we can make indirect contributions. We are trying to enhance the capacities of municipalities as well as ensuring coordination among them. As for capacity building, I can refer to an issue that was referred to earlier. Institutions do not have infinite resources or capitals. That's why we need specialties, and here we have collaborations with NGOs or universities and hold trainings. We had, for example, a 2030 summit last year to ensure increased awareness of municipalities. Boğaziçi University Lifelong Learning Center and another institution helped us coordinate it. I can give a more recent example, mucilage issue, and here for this reason we prepared a 22 bullet action plan, and actually we carried it on together with the Ministry of Urban Transformation, Environment and Urban Transformation. We brought together the NGOs and created this communication between the government and urban organizations, and we created this action plan. This was about the union of municipalities, but also there are those collaborations between the municipalities. They have the chance to directly interfere or take action. They have infrastructure activities or social aid activities. Can you wrap up in a minute, please? Of course. As I stated earlier, because no institution has infinite resources, they can develop collaboration in terms of financing with the private sector or collaborations on HR. That will be all from my part. Thank you very much. Collaborations do matter as an important topic, and our panelists will be kindly asked to evaluate the issue from their perspective. So, Mr. Inan, when you look at the collaborations from the perspective of NGOs, can you refer to any projects or initiatives in that direction? Of course, there are examples from Turkey, but I would like to refer to an example which is more comprehensive. Actually, this example is from Boston, America. In 2011, there's this Boston Green Ribbon Commission. The reason for this commission is that the municipality has an action plan, and they, along with the Bar Foundation, as Professor Ashe stated, this foundation handles all the local resources for the climate action plan and sustainability. So an NGO and municipality comes together, and they also include the business community in the local area. So they want to implement the climate action plan so that they achieve zero emissions in 2050, as well as achieving targets of sustainability in other fields. They create working groups in 5 areas, and here they want to have a consultancy and dialogue so that they can combine their experiences. Second, they want to do planning and strategy creation, as you stated earlier, with a series of decisions. And the third function is to create an implementation phase as part of this structure. What do? They reach out to hospitals and they address their energy savings as well as the building processes of the real estate companies so that they can make buildings in line with climatic conditions. And they actually know that 500 million journeys turn to mass transportation rather than individual vehicle driving. And they create insulation for 20,000 buildings, adding up to over $3 billion of savings. And then they apply plantation for the city. 100 new companies are created, and they have employment generation for 3,000 people, which shows that a strong local administration and the know-how and information from the NGO lead to concrete results with the business community. Unfortunately, the mayor passes away. Can you wrap up in a minute, please? Of course. Politically speaking, he enjoys the support of the 70% of the population, and he personally meets actually with many of the people, one of the most accomplished mayors. So a collaboration on a city scale can be exemplified by this concrete project. Hopefully we are going to see the similar ones in Turkey. You are muted, Mr. Erkin. This example is a very strong one, indeed, and we see the sort of outcome when people are able to have a collaboration. We need to examine this. Now, Ms. Betul, I would like to turn to you. When you look at it from the example of local business world, can you share any such example? Of course, Professor, with pleasure. I listened to both Ms. Yuchin and Mr. Inan, and from where they left off, I think we can say that their points summarize the mood of the business community altogether. We are talking about investment and business opportunities awaiting us in the future, as well as a social responsibility aspect. I think we see the examples of both in the business world. Big investments emerge from these collaborations, as well as very meaningful social sustainability or social responsibility projects. I would like to give examples from them both, but if you think about the most enthusiastic player in the local industry, I will refer to women. And I'm not saying that for as a cliche. We have over 100 women associations, and we abbreviate them under the title of IDK, and we say that collaboration between women means actually a union of power, a unity of power, and women I think have great creativity in terms of forming new brands. There are very concrete examples, and I think this also is an investment opportunity in terms of sustainability for the period ahead. We need to be explaining all this to the business world. Summaries from our women or female associations might be small entities. For example, in Western Anatolia, Elpek Vezi is an initiative in Karadeniz Ereğli, and our chair of the association introduces this Elpek cloth. Surprised us when we heard it at the beginning, but we know that this is a touristic symbol for the Black Sea region, as well as a business line, and they started to generate employment there. Also, another example from Adana Women Adana Business Women Association. They are turning the compost from kitchen into agriculture, and they use it in agriculture for agricultural reasons. They also ensure that they are recycled to nature, as we see in the forest fires in summer. This project is called I Am Protecting My Food. They place containers to businesses. They process these waste food and ensure that it is recycled in nature. Another example from agricultural area. This is the last example. Agricultural production specialization organized region. I know it has a long name, but there is a female president both of the region and organized industrial zone and the association. Their projects are directed towards the economy, environment, and here they show actually women participation in terms of social responsibility, and it is actually an uptrend. Hopefully it will be continuous and stronger moving forward. Thank you very much. All these matter small projects, when handled with good governance, make bigger impact. Unilever has this say: if everyone saves one drop of water in the world, you make tremendous amounts of savings. That's why each savings matter. Ms. Cansu, when you look at this issue from the business world, can you give us information about the examples of collaboration for the cities? Sure. I would like to answer this question in the context of TÜSİAD's efforts. We talk about a comprehensive project for Europe and Turkey. Integrated service tool and technology roadmap will be created. With this roadmap in selected cities, we are going to look at short, medium, and long-term technology strategies and facilitate their designs. This initiative will also proceed on an interactive collaboration platform. We are going to have 10 pilot cities, and here Istanbul, Ankara, Izmir, Konya Gaziantep, Adana, and from Europe, London, Berlin, Milano, and Utrecht will join it. The reason why these cities are selected actually concern geographical distribution, mobilization of resources, information and know-how transfer, industry, and growth types. Therefore, on one hand, we see partnerships between the stakeholders, encouragement of financing, as well as solution proposals for the challenges in the cities. This project will be completed in the first quarter of the next year. Last but not least, I can refer to our partners as part of this project. Turkov had asked the boss for Berlin Bosphorus Initiative, and as information partner, Özyeğin University joins this project by TÜSİAD Sustainable Development Project. Another project is, as Ms. Gülçin will refer to, is TÜSİAD CONFED UNDP platform, which is called Business World for Targets. As part of the targets, I think it will contribute to the sustainable city vision. Last but not least, we are talking about 40 cities, and here we want to decrease the use of plastics, and here we have TÜSİAD Global Compact and SEDK from Turkey, so that they can overcome plastic communication. And here TÜSİAD deals with global change, gender equality, and digitalization. And here we would like to point to the fact that they have policy recommendations that will contribute to these solutions. Thank you. TÜSİAD has significant contributions, and here these collaborations are important. It's great that 5 cities out of 10 cities are located in Turkey. It is a valuable study, and it's going to lead to important benefits. Ms. Ayşe, when we look at this from your perspective, do we see collaborations between think tanks and local authorities that are spearheaded by the think tanks? Because it will be also guiding for us. Thank you very much. There are thematic projects like Barcelona Center for International Cooperations. There are such studies, but from the perspective of think tanks, we can refer to examples that were founded at the beginning of the 20th century, who has a say in their country's activities. I think they have a bigger influence on a national and international scale. As Mr. Inan, I will also go to America, so I can refer to Chicago Council on Global Affairs, which is a very important institution. They collaborate with many partners, they develop many projects, and they make policy recommendations. From the other side of the Atlas Ocean, Brookings Institute, for example, underlines the concept of a new locality, and they have collaborations rather than umbrella type organizations. We can refer to very strong think tanks. We can create something similar in Turkey. We can have that like an umbrella organization, and we need that a lot because we see a problem of resources, especially in terms of municipalities, and here think tanks, municipalities, business world organizations may come together hand in hand so that they have collaborations, because these people want to collaborate scientifically, and they are able to create resources, and they can actually address many local issues. I'm underlining the concept of local here because you refer to some important area. We say innovation, but we know that think tank institutions have to create policies. For Turkey, we encounter this situation when we go there. There are universities, techno-cities, business community, but no think tanks. This is an important point, and the most important reason why is that majority of things are determined from the central authority. That's why we need think tanks on a local footing. Thank you very much. Thank you. You are right. These international collaborations are important, and the adaptation is important. Every country has an important culture. I definitely agree with you. So here your role matters a lot. You work for the same goal, but you need to actually differentiate the messages, because the behavioral economics is becoming all the more important, and think tanks can play a serious role in terms of their implementation. You are definitely right. I would like to make a small contribution there. United Nations Sustainable Goals, when created within a global framework, actually can be applied everywhere. We can discuss it in Konya, we can discuss it in the Boron city of France, we can discuss it in Indonesia. So institutions like the UN and umbrella organizations like you refer to will provide huge benefits, and the most concrete example is the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you very much. Thank you. Ms. Gülçin, coming back to you, you probably have many examples, but can you refer to a few inspiring and enlightening ones? Thank you very much, Mr. Erkin. I would like to refer to the reason why we are founded. We want to have this collaboration between municipalities, private sector, and the business world. As I stated in my speech, I can refer to an example that came out of our study. In the urbanization process, local administrations and municipalities play a huge role in terms of human resources, finance management, and they can actually benefit from collaborations, and they can take place in different forms. In Turkey, we can talk about public-private partnership, which is a very common model. Also, joint venture models are seen frequently. They can be beneficial practices for both sides. Also, municipality participation models, they can actually appear as an important model. And here, for a comprehensive municipality, we actually put the focus on the role played by municipal subsidiaries. And here, in terms of sustainability and development activities, was created together with the private sector. Why did we focus on municipality subsidiaries? Because it's a model frequently used within the European Union and Turkey, but in emerging markets, in least developed countries who experience the issues of this trend are not exemplified much. These companies created by Austria and other countries contribute to clean energy, and clean waste management effectively. In Turkey, Istanbul, Ankara, Istanbul metropolitan municipalities, actually many cities established their own companies. They produce actually economic buildings, they provide convenient food, social aid, care for the elderly, they support the municipalities accordingly. A more concrete example can be given from our research. Istanbul Tree and Landscape, or Istanbul Ağaç and Peyzaj AŞ, a company was examined for this seasonal flower collaboration project. We said that here there is this potential which has not been enhanced in terms of capacity, and here actually it can be spread across Turkey. This industry has not attracted interest that much previously, but together with the private sector's involvement, the capacity was developed and it became an important industry. Similarly, municipality companies in the European Union contributed to the reduction of wastes. We refer to other activities run by them, but I want to highlight the priority of comprehensive projects together with the private sector companies. What are these models? The business models that contribute to actually the people with low incomes. So actually the urbanization process can be attended or participated by the private sector as such, and that seems to be the most conducive or appropriate vision. Thank you very much. Very good examples, and it's quite valuable that we see such an example from Turkey. Now I would like to give the floor to Ms. Özge again, as this is the last round of our discussions. We discussed the sort of role we can play. We referred to examples, and considering our experiences, which actors should be taking place in terms of collaborations on your side? What kind of opportunities can we actually encounter? What other actors can be more active? Please explain that from your perspective. I think at the outset, I can make this distinction between municipalities and the unions of municipalities. NGOs should definitely be a part of it. So far, we looked at the policy making process, and this was a top to bottom approach adopted by municipalities or governments, but now we are headed for a different direction where we pay attention to the interests of local stakeholders. That's why we are referring to governance now. And here the NGOs that can be a vocal player for the public should be included. And we see initiatives conducted by the IMM, and they ask the general public about the sort of projects to be selected. For example, Sultanbeyli municipality asked the public about the prioritization of the sustainable development goals. So we see the initiatives underway, but I think we can include the civil society more to this process. In addition to that, I can say this about the Union of Municipalities. So this is the second part of my remarks. We talk about the transfer of resources and refer to their limited nature. Actually, we see places that can provide these grants or fund programs. through different platforms. That's why we need to be in close contact with international organizations. We have a shortcoming there. I think we should have a closer communication with them and bring our municipalities together with those institutions. These are one of the things to do on our list. Thank you very much. That makes sense. Civil society participation matters considerably, as all the actions aim for increasing public wealth. And here the municipalities' collaboration are critical, as certain targets may not be achieved in a certain period, but we need to ensure that we are collaborating around the same considerations. What kind of contributions, Mr. Inan, can civil societies make? My apologies. I think we should get used to this mute feature. Well, I think this is not all about the civil society. I can say something about the whole structure by placing the civil society at the beginning. We should actually go beyond our identity perception or risk perception. We talk about the climate change and say that everything is under risk. Here, you cannot lead a happy life as an artist or as a person growing your child. Everything is under risk. Second, we should focus on mutuality. Our culture structure actually refers to the other, and the world history provides the backdrop for that. The atmosphere, however, is a mutual thing, and gravity is a mutual thing. Urban areas also are a mutual factor, so they should be considered differently. They should not be considered like a tax collection area or profit area, but rather living areas, as we have our life functions there. So, person, institution, and sector-focused approaches should be created. Here we can talk about the electorate or local administrators when we say persons. And second, here we should look at the institutions and understand where the actually institutions stand. Also, thirdly, we're talking about an ecological setting where we have the society, arts, and design. We should actually have a perspective that will create a connection between the components of the whole. So in English, we need a mindset shift whereby we achieve transformation. Second, we need to have a holistic actually look at things. If you don't have honey, then if you don't have bees, you don't have honey, and the industry doesn't work in return. So we should have that understanding. If you lack water, then you cannot have any related agricultural activities or industrial processing, or you see a price increase in water which has an impact. So this is actually a holistic phenomenon. Third, we need to have this mutual approach. We talk about governance or we talk about collaboration. These are all great, but we need to refer to specific risks and benefits on a city scale for concrete solutions. There is a possibility that 300,000 people may die in an earthquake taking place in Istanbul. The business world is under risk. The social segment is under risk. So we need to create maybe risk matrices, risk and benefit matrices for cities. Fourth, we need collaborations. And here we talk about aligning. My risk should be understood from the perspective of individuals, institutions, and sectors. It was great to be a banker until 2001 or 2008. Then people started to move away from that sector. We can talk about the, for example, earthquake and Adapazarı example and say another thing for the earthquake. So here we need strategies and action plans as the third item, coming from the collaborations between civil society and other institutions. And sustainability should be the main part of the strategy. For example, Erdemir Çelik, the risks, for example, in Karabük. Is it considered also a risky situation for Erdemir, or we can say something else? So here we need a set of or a series of actions and other measures, and then we need to continuously monitor and evaluate so that we can revise our strategy and use our resources accordingly. Last but not least, in a world of crisis and transformations, I think we need to test an understanding of transformation. If we can achieve that in our resources and in our thoughts, I think we can make a difference. That would be all. I would like to end my bold statements with these last parts. Actually, governance means creating awareness, according to what you said, and civil society organizations can contribute to creating awareness of citizens, and this earthquake example is a very important one, and we see it both in the public and private sector that people shy away from allocating resources as there is a lack of certainty about the occurrence of these disasters. When municipalities want to earmark that budget, the citizens say maybe it will happen 30 years later, but this awareness can be achieved by the participation of civil society organizations. That's why we will be using some part of the resource we have to manage the risk in the future. When we create an earthquake-based budget, then we will decrease the risks or manage the risks. Think about Japan, where you have earthquakes with a magnitude of 8 or 9, but the life continues as it is. We can say the same for Istanbul. Ms. Betül, when looked at from the business world perspective, what other collaborations can we have with the other partners? Which other partners should be included on a local scale? Thank you very much, Professor Erkin. I would like to provide a wrap-up in the light of all the inputs. I also made certain notes. A few development agencies are part of the Turconfet's organizational basis. I wanted to look at their regional planning. From the first day of our establishment, we wanted to encourage the business world and the local administrations. In this scope, I wanted to look at the regional plan Izmir, my hometown, and I have seen a completely different one compared to the first days of our organization, and it shows the sort of change we experience. Regional plans generally copy each other, and they actually are repeated, but after all these changes, I think it is great to see that the plans also represent those changes. However, implementation matters, and we have to support them with implementations. Actually, here, the stakeholders should be diversified on a local scale. Business communities, development agencies, governor's office, all other municipalities come together in a way as required. There is a certain awareness there, but in our projects we see that this diversification is weak in our project with IMM. So civil society organizations do matter, as stated by Ms. Ayşe. Here, I think we need to ensure that this idea is more commonplace. That would be a note from my side. Wherever you go, you see field studies. For example, Konya has a different communication in terms of consultancy and collaboration. Adana has a different pattern, and that's enjoyable. We all had pleasant projects as we conducted them, but still we need to manage these differences very well. We should include more diversified stakeholders, environment associations working on waste management. All NGOs you can think of should be included and followed here. You can think of it like a color spectrum. and here the wide spectrum will lead us the right path. As Ms. Jansu stated, we should have international partnerships in this process and support them a lot and be a part of these international platforms. And business world is also important. Can you wrap up? I say that we should diversify more and have more support for local collaborations, and we need to be telling more about these business models. Thank you very much, as it has been a very enjoyable and beneficial meeting for me.
Teşekkür ederiz.
We would like to thank you for sharing your opinions. Madam Jansu, from your side, as a representative of the larger scale business world, apart from the structures that you have been cooperating so far, who else would accelerate this process? It's better to share a work of us concerning the earthquake. With Türk Confed, we have a new project on the scenario of Istanbul earthquake. This is actually focused on the private sector, but we have recently published this. If I get back to the question, generally speaking, the business world organizations are generally working with public sector, private sector, and international organizations. In TÜSİAD, I am responsible of the climate change and energy classes. In energy, so in collaboration with UNDP, will implement a green tourism project in Balıkesir, Ayvalık. We deem this a very important. This project is very important for increasing the awareness, and it's also very important for ensuring gender equality, and that is including the fundamental patterns of sustainability. Another example can be given from global. For example, Mexico City early warning system is being managed with the cooperation of an NGO and a startup. It's a large-scale public service, and it's very important that this is being managed with a collaboration. The business world, in collaborating with their supply chain, it's very valuable that they are contributing to the sustainable city solutions, and we have talked about this in response to the first question. The private sector's transformation potential is quite high because undoubtedly the private sector is, with the power of the human resources, technical knowledge, and innovative perspective, can give the maximum amount of contribution. However, this potential should be directed and steered in a cost-efficient way. In this sense, the digital platforms published by the local governments, open web platforms, or collecting feedback on the city problems, and all the applications which are publicly open are very important, because the data in these platforms on the basis of district, province, and neighborhood will inspire the innovative projects. And in this sense, the entrepreneurship ecosystem will be strengthened. Therefore, when I am concluding my remarks, I would like to say that these projects it's very important that the municipalities are prioritizing and supporting these projects. Thank you very much. Actually, we need to talk about the global axis as well. The World Economic Forum has an initiative at the moment. This initiative, in particular, is supplying turning the supply chains of the institutions to net zero without any emission. And in Turkey, there is a big company which is a partner in the project. It's useful to remind that. And on the other hand, the subject is becoming more and more important every day. And the formulation of common solutions in the central structure is very important. Instead of countries acting on alone, and there is a coordination of a central structure, the resource usage becomes more decent. And the central structure should be taken into consideration. Madam Aishan, from your perspective, from the perspective of think tanks, which other partners could be cooperated for accelerating this process and putting it on the right track? Thank you very much. Think tanks to formulate policies, they need to make a research, and for this they require a funding. And this is the most important topic. Maybe after me, Gülçin can talk about this. The funding is very important for international organizations, central organizations, or international civil society organizations. Everything is accumulated here. The funding is very important for conducting research of a think tank, and this flowing should be ensured. How we can organize umbrella organizations at the international level? For Turkey, in the subject of funding, this kind of umbrella institutions can help all the opinion institutions, smaller or think tanks, smaller or bigger. As Istanbul Center of Policies, we are affiliated to Sabancı University. We have been born out of this university, and therefore we are lucky at the same time. We can perform in collaborations with universities. We can make European Union projects. We can work with good academicians, and we can find funding. With Türk Confed, we had very long years, very efficient collaborations. On that sense, we can understand that the cooperations are very important and they can give out very efficient outcomes because one project follows another. At the moment, we have a big TÜBİTAK project together with Hacettepe University. We have field research in 9 cities. This is important. Cooperations are important. A variety of academicians have come together, not only from this university, also from other universities. Academically or scientifically, these cooperations are very useful for everybody. And finally, I would like to say that collaboration with central organizations is very important. It's also important for the knowledge. It's not only important for funding, it's also important for the flow of information and for daily practices. And the think tanks' reports should be taken into consideration by the central government. These two issues are really burning subjects that should be underlined. Thank you very much. I thank you. The subjects that you have mentioned are really very important. First of all, we have to be aware that think tanks allocate time for this subject and they are guiding. And for central government, this is a significant opportunity of know-how transfer. There is a second importance of that. In Turkey, some opinion civil society organizations and think tanks can formulate the ideas and policies which would have global impact. If we transfer these ideas and opinions to abroad, this is also important for demonstrating the level of intellectual capacity of Turkey. And Turkey's experience is very important because we are working in a very different geography. In the world, there are not so many cultures which can think so holistic. We do not have a depth, but we have a huge, large broadness. The third subject, the knowledge, is very important. When you check the OECD statistics, in the subject of knowledge sharing, Turkey is lagging behind. Like Canada, like America, like some countries of Europe, in the central And in the local sense, they are sharing the data. And this data sharing is facilitating the lives of people and their decision making. For example, you are going to open a shop in a local area. When you check the data about a certain neighborhood of a city, then you can make a decision to open the business or not. These are very important issues. Turkey must take a step in this. So, in that sense, you have touched upon a very important subject. Thank you very much. Gülce, I would like to turn to you. It has been a difficult subject. When people are asked to talk for hours, it's easy, but when you summarize everything in 4 minutes, it's very difficult. So I would like to thank all the participants for their sharing of messages in a brief way, in a summarized way. I would like to turn to UNDP, which is working worldwide. In Turkey, you have certain corporations. However, in order to accelerate this process and in order to make it more effective, what kind of cooperation opportunities are possible? Of course, Erkin Bey, as you have said, this subject is very comprehensive. And for this reason, I would like to give more concrete examples. As I have said earlier, local collaboration is important, but in particular for the developing countries, in order to solve the development problems, sharing of knowledge, skills, and technical know-how is very important. Since the establishment of the center, we are doing South-South cooperation works. I would like to give some specific examples of our works. What I have mentioned earlier is that we have designed an education and training program. It covers Turkey, Palestine, and Azerbaijan, and we have received incredible feedback because you can share a variety of experiences, and in line with the feedback, we are now revising the program for Latin American countries. The experts inside the program will share their country examples with their colleagues, and this is a significant contribution to the development of cooperation. I do agree with Ayşe. Everything is funding, and as a center, we have discovered it long ago. In our studies, we have been carrying out some work under the title of impact investment. There, we are working for the companies to use innovative financing tools. As UNDP, we do not structure any financial instrument or bond. But when it comes to green bonds, these are important for raising awareness, for regulating the legal processes. To make a list of rentable projects, we play a role of the facilitator. The impact investment portfolio, UNDP, together with UNDP Turkey Country Office for Sustainable Development Goals, in order to increase the investments, we have initiated a project. As a technical support to the country office, we have completed the investment map for the Sustainable Development Goals. In the aftermath of this mapping, in order to inform the stakeholders and in order to raise awareness, we are working on a training program. Under the program, in particular in the field of infrastructure and urbanization, public-private partnership model, and the good exemplary projects will be in a session. I would like to invite all the participants. We will probably perform this training in the beginning of December. I will be very happy if you can join us. And as I am ending my remarks, if you would like to receive detailed information about our trainings and publications, we would like to see you visit our website, or you can have access to us from our social media accounts. It's 1 minute early, 1 minute to 30. Thank you very much for sticking to time. Very briefly, I would like to wrap up, and we have a question. Is there any work on safe or secure cities? Actually, safe cities are in the concept of the sustainable cities. When we look at the life quality index of the OECD, one of the non-monetary measures is the safe cities. What we mean when we say safe cities, covering a lot of subjects. It should be a real sense safety, like the police work. Apart from that, the safety measures for against the situations like earthquakes, and we need to create an environment where people will feel safe. But sustainable city vision covers all of them. For example, instead of increasing police force, increasing the lightnings in the night lightnings in the city is decreasing the crime ratios in some cities. Now I have to finish. I would like to thank all the participants for all the valuable input, and I would like to thank the panelists, and I would like to thank the participants for their patience. It's not easy